Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today it's going to be the update to the Easy Sorc, the most popular build on the channel and quite possibly the most popular sorcerer build in the world to date. And of course it is one of, if not the most balanced PvE build you will ever find. This is designed for all players of all experiences and skill levels, and you can use this from the easiest stuff in the game all the way up to the hardest stuff in the game. Anything you throw at it, it can take as long as you know what you're doing. The design for this build is, of course, to put out a decent amount of single target at the same time as putting out a massive amount of area of effect, and you control your own sustainability as far as resources are concerned and get damage from it, and at the same time you will keep yourself alive. This can do absolutely everything. All you've got to do is try. So if you want to see some more of this, stay tuned, it's all coming right up. So, as per usual, if you've seen these before, you know I'm going to go into the stats right now, so we need to get our buffs and bonuses on, of course. We are sitting on 35.7k max Magicka, 24.7k max health, nearly stumbled that one, and 15.9k max stamina, which is absolutely massive. Now, we make sure we've got a potion running at the same time, because obviously we've got some recovery built into that, more explained later. Then, of course, we do actually have 1.2, almost 1.3k mag recovery. Now, our spell damage is sitting on 4k, that will be higher, and our spell crit is sitting on 53.6, that will also be higher. Our resistances are huge, however, 23.2 and 18.1. As a Magicka DPS, that's a substantial amount. And we have really high pen as well, so if we do get buffs and bonuses from our group, that will help. Now, just for argument's sake, if we do have buffs and bonuses from the group, then of course we do end up looking a bit like this. More buffs. We end up having 38k Magicka, 27k max health, and 17k stamina, with, of course, a crit bonus of almost 60k. We will go actually up to about 62, depending on the monster set. And, of course, as you can see, our spell damage at the moment, 5.4. Depending on which setup you decide to take, that can actually go a substantial amount higher. You can actually get to about 6.2, 6.3. Anyway, 64 points into max Magicka, because we don't need the health, because we've got loads of it. And, of course, max health, max Magicka food, the flat stuff. Oh yeah, Mundestein. We are using the Thief, by the way. You don't have to be Vampire unless you do want the Sneak passive, in which case, get Vampire Stage 1. Now, skills. They're going to be explained, of course, but I want to cut these videos down a little bit. They're very, very informative. Yes, I know. That's the intention, and unfortunately, some of them are too long. So we're going to cut it down a bit, and I'm going to cut out some of the fluff, but we're still going to explain everything in detail, just not over-detailed. So, first of all, of course, we've got the Summoned Twilight Tormentor in the Daedric Summoning skill line. Third ability you unlock starts off as Winged Twilight, morph it to Tormentor. If you have the other one, that one actually heals. This you need to double bar, otherwise it will die. When it's active, it stays active forever. Anything you're hitting, it will hit, and if you heavy attack a target, it will change to that target instead. Now, if the enemy is over 53% health, you will actually do extra damage if you activate this buff once every 15 seconds. Anything under 53% health, stop pressing this button. You don't need it anymore. It will still hit the target, but you won't get this extra buff. So at the beginning of the fight, activate it, keep it running. When the fight goes lower and lower and lower, stop pressing it. Simple as that. Next up is Daedric Tomb. This will take a little bit of practice to get used to, but it's a very, very powerful skill, and you will have to unlock the 5th ability in the Dark Magic skill line. It starts off as Daedric Mines, morph it to Daedric Tomb. This goes on the ground, puts 3 mines on the floor, and it will actually leave them there for 30 seconds unless something stands in it. Anything that does stand in it will be immobilized if they can be immobilized, and they will take magic damage. They hit very, very hard, and you can also hit a target, any target in the game actually, with 2 at a time if you're very good at aiming. If you're not very good at aiming, you're going to get 1 consistently. If you are, you're going to get 2. But if there's a spare one laying on the ground and an ad comes in, they can pop from that as well without you having to cast an extra spammable. This is expensive, so we've got heavy attacks in our rotation to cater for that. Again, it will take a little bit of practice, but they're very, very strong. One more thing to note, if your tank is very good and they know what they're doing and they can work towards the benefits of the group members' setups, then of course it makes sense to actually put ads or bosses up against a wall or in a corner up against something that is solid, because if you do plan your placement carefully, you can actually place 3 of these under the target because they'll bounce off the wall. Again, boxes, walls, pillars, anything like that, use your environment to your advantage. It's not going to happen in every single fight, but when it can happen, it really makes a difference. Next up is Hardened Ward. This is our survival skill, basically. Daedric Summoning skill line. 4th ability to unlock. Starts off as Conjured Ward, morph it to Hardened Ward. This sits on the bar, never doing anything unless we get in trouble. You get in trouble, activate it. It will protect you for 14.8k health. It does scale off of our max magicka, but it caps at 60% of our max health. So they both contribute each other. We've got a very strong damage shield here. Next, again, is a slot on the bar, don't press it. This is for emergencies, press it. This one sits there, don't press it. Very simple. This is from the Mages Guild skill line. And where's it gone? There we go. You put it on the bar, such as Mage Light, morph it to Inner Light. It will give you 5% magicka. And it will also give you Major Prophecy, which increases your spell crit rating. Major buffs do not stack with themselves, so getting this from a potion is not going to make sense. You don't need to. Unless, of course, you want it on both bars, so you'll have to carry it over. But we're going to go to the back bar in a moment. All you have to do is slot it. Extra magicka means extra damage, extra resources. Happy days. Bound Aegis is a swap out. Now, depending on how advanced you are, depends on which one of these two skills you will take. So, if you are very advanced, then you may well, or not even very advanced, just fairly decent, you may well get 2 mines firing at a time on every single fight or most fights. In which case, this is going to be stronger at execute than Mage's Wrath. But if you're not too familiar with it, or you just want it in general because you prefer its aesthetic, then of course what you can do is get the first ability in the Stormcalling skill line and only use this under 20% health in place of mines. So use this all the way through the fight, spam this at execute, and it will do damage in area of effect and shock damage to the target. That's up to you. But again, if you are advanced enough to make sure that you can normally fire 2 at a time, put Bound Aegis on the bar, because, which comes from Daedric Summoning, by the way, last ability. If you have this slotted, you get an extra 8% increase max magicka, which is insane, especially stacked along Inner Light. So execute if you are not so experienced or just prefer it. Bound Aegis if you are very experienced. Now what this will do in a benefit for you is actually give you extra resistances, which is really handy, and it will also allow you to do more damage because you've got more magic on this bar. Quite simple. But one more bonus as well, if you are the one that ends up getting aggro for God knows whatever reason, maybe the tank dropped the boss, whatever, this ability here can be activated. And if it is activated for the next 3 seconds, you get 40% block mitigation. Anyway, again, this is a choice. Bound Aegis if you're advanced and you want the extra damage. Mage's Wrath if you just want the familiar aesthetic and or execute. Personally, I like to have Mage's Wrath in most situations because ads die quite quickly from it, but it's entirely up to you. Your main ultimate on the front bar can be swapped out. Now, we've double barred the pet for now, just so whichever bar we're on, we get passives and we can use the pet. But what I would recommend is on the front bar, have the pet, have the Storm Atro from the Stormcalling skill line, Daedric Summoning skill line, and use this as much as you can, but also have an option to swap out just in case you get in trouble. So if you are just trying to do damage all the time and nothing else, then of course you can drop this for 21 seconds, it'll do loads and loads of lightning damage, and it's got the AoE bonus as well, and your group can benefit from this by activating the synergy that it applies, or supplies even, and this Storm Atronach and the person that takes the synergy will both be granted Major Berserk. Now, if you don't need that, swap to Suppression Field. Suppression Field is your oh shit button, just in case you get in trouble, and you'll actually stun the whole room. Anything that can be stunned will be stunned for 12 seconds and take magic damage every 1 second, which is quite high. Now, back bar is very, very simple overall because we've got a double barred pet, which is nice and easy. Then we've got Wall of Elements, which is from the Destruction Staff skill line, and we've morphed it into Unstable Wall. The other one has a longer duration, so yes, that means of course if you do get stuck on your front bar, your glyph can fire more often without it falling off, but we've deliberately taken advantage of this because of the explosion at the end. Basically, while this is on the ground, it will do damage over time to everything caught inside of it, in the form of shock damage if you have a lightning staff, or fire damage if you have a fire staff. But just bear in mind, if you do concuss the enemy, which is a status effect from shock, you will knock them off balance. Now, we need off balance for this build to be successful unless you've got an abundance of recovery in your group, which is rare. So, if the off balance effect is already guaranteed covered by somebody else in your group, you can go with a fire staff. However, if they are not very effective with keeping that buff or debuff up, then of course you want to be the one to supply it, so stick with lightning. 90% of the time when I'm using this, I'm normally lightning on both bars, but the choice is yours. Again, if you don't have off balance, you have to go lightning because you're going to need it. Boundless Storms is up next. This is in our Storm Calling skill line. Second ability to unlock starts off as Lightning form, morph it to Boundless Storms. As we have lots and lots of resistances, we are pretty damn tanky, and we can stay close to the enemy safely. In fact, we're safer in the enemy's face than most melee builds. So stay close, and if you do, anything within 5 meters will always take damage in the form of shock damage every 1 second for 23 seconds. And you will get Major Resolve, increasing your resistances by 5948, which is a lot. So you've got the major buff here, and if you do slot it, you've got the minor buff here from Bound Aegis. Now, of course, just bear in mind, you will have to maintain this, but it will also make you faster when you first activate it, but only for a short period of time. So although the buff lasts for 23 seconds rather than 20, you will actually get a speed boost at the beginning. So don't spam it, but if you do want it to make you a bit faster, you can activate it before it's even ready to run out. Next up is in the same skill line, a couple under this one. Starts off as Surge, morph it to Critical Surge, and this is a switch out. If you activate this, you will get Major Brutality and Sorcery, increasing weapon and spell damage by 20% for 33 seconds. But if you deal critical damage, you will heal every 1 second. So this is very, very important for your survival. As long as you're doing damage and playing aggressively, as long as this is active, you will always heal by doing damage as long as you crit, and we will. Now, you can swap this for Inner Light or Bound Aegis if you prefer. There are benefits to that, but of course you are going to lose this ability to keep yourself alive. So I would only do that if you're very, very advanced and you just want a tiny extra stat on the back bar. It's not make or break either way, so it's entirely up to you. Next up is Scalding Rune. Yes, I know, usually it is Lightning Flood from the Sorcerer skill line, but we're not using that. You can still use this if you prefer. It does do shock damage, it's area of effect, great. But this will actually do a little bit more damage, and it will give you Mage's Guild passives, which we'll come to later. Not only that, this will put a rune on the floor, much like the mines here. This one immobilizes and does damage. This one just does damage. But when it blasts, area of effect-wise, anything caught inside of this will all have a dot on it equally. All have their own individual fire damage over time. No, it's not lightning, so no, it won't contribute towards concussion, but if you want the extra damage, you can use this. And also a big benefit to this is, surprisingly, as far as Lightning Flood is concerned, it's actually 1k cheaper almost, or 800 Magicka cheaper. So as far as your resources are concerned, this is cheaper and stronger. So there's not much in it, but if you want to use this instead, you can. Next up is Thunderous Rage. It's our main ultimate on the back bar. Like I said, if you want to, you can double bar the giant pet, keep up Major Berserk for whoever wants to take the synergy, and happy days all day round. But if you want to do more AoE damage, then of course you've got the Destro ulti. So Destruction Staff, and unlock it for Elemental Storm, but morph it to Elemental Rage. This one you can place on the ground rather than sticking to you and does more damage. Now, if you are using our Lightning Staff, yes, this can supply concussion, which means you can apply off balance with this. If you're using the fire one, it will do slightly more damage per tick, but it won't last as long as lightning. So lightning's 9 seconds, fire's 7. The choice is yours either way, but like I said before, if you do have off balance covered already, fine, go fire. If you don't have off balance covered already, you do need to bring it. I know lots of people are trying to tell you off balance is useless. No, it's not. Off balance is how you get your resources back, and it's also how you get 70% extra damage out of your heavy attack. Very important for this build. It does require that base game mechanic to be really, really strong. Now we're going to go into passives. Hopefully you understand most of these anyway, but we're going to go over them briefly if we can. This reduces the health, magic, and stamina cost of your abilities. Cheaper skills all round, happy days. When you hit an enemy with a dark magic ability, you heal, and this can happen once every 0.5 seconds. So you've got your mines here. If 2 of them go off at once, you're only going to get the heal once, obviously. If 3 of them go off at once, you'll get the heal once. But if 1 goes off, then an ad stands in one, then an ad stands in another, all from the same cast, you can actually get 3 heals out of it. This will keep you alive. After blocking an attack, your next health, magicka, or stamina cost ability is 15% cheaper. So if you do block, or you activate this first and then block second, whatever you want to do, your next skill will be cheaper regardless. So if you block something and then hit them with the mines, big reduction to cost there. When you cast a dark magic ability, you grant your group minor prophecy. So if you activate your mines, the whole group gets spell crit for 20 seconds. All you've got to do is make sure you fire 1 mine every 20 seconds. We're going to be doing a lot more than that. Daedric Summoning is obviously very important. You restore 300 magical or stamina when one of your non-ultimate Daedric Summoning abilities end. So any of these skills, including your damage shield, or if your pet dies or whatever, anything like that, if the skill ends, or if the summoned version of it as well, the buff, any of them end, you will actually get resources back. Reduces the cost of your ultimate abilities by 15%, which is why our summoned Atronach is so cheap, and of course our Death Royalty is actually cheaper than everybody else's. Massive reduction to cost there. Increases your health and stam recovery while you have a Daedric Summoning ability slotted, and this does stack with other bonuses as well. So as long as you've got one of these on your bar, you'll have that bonus all the time. And guess what? We've got some on both bars. Increases your max health by 8% if you have a Daedric Summoning pet active. We do have a pet. It is active. It's with us all the time. 8% increase to max health. We are very tanky. This is very important. Increases your mag recovery. Increases your physical and shock damage. So all shock damage we do is stronger. Note, flame damage is generally only stronger depending on the damage type, as long as you've got buffs and bonuses from other people, i.e. DK Breath and also Encratis, the monster set. This increases your damage done against enemies by 1% for every 10% current health they have. So we have 10% more damage when the enemy is at 100%. We have 9% more damage when it's at 90, 8% at 80, and so on and so forth. When it gets to 10% health, we've got the 1% bonus, and when it gets to under 10%, of course, we've got no extra. So our flat damage, much like everybody else's, is the same if we reach their kind of checkpoints, if you like. But the start of the fight is where we excel. Execute is where some classes excel. The start of the fight for us is where we do more. So your burst is important. This increases the weapon and spell damage for each sorcerer ability slotted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the front bar. And then 1, 2, 3 if you have the pet. Only 2 if you don't on the back bar. So don't stay on the back bar too long. Your buffs and bonuses are mostly on the front. Destruction stuff is very important. Make sure you understand these passives. You will have to go through these in your own time or even practice them to fully grasp them, but they are important. Now, your lightning staff will actually do extra damage to surrounding targets. So if you heavy attack, it's like a channel. It will tick, 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 and a big pop at the end. All of that damage, anything that is flat and not crit, doesn't matter about the crit, it doesn't matter if you crit or not, the flat maximum that it will go out to in that situation is exactly the same as what will be copied to all surrounding enemies. Penetration's considered, yes, of course, but the actual flat damage you do will be duplicated. So if you do end up with a 40k crit, but the underneath the crit is actually, say, like 21, 22, something like that, then you'll do 20k or 22k in area effect to all surrounding targets. So the higher you can get that heavy, the better. That is why we take advantage of off balance, so that we can get that 70% extra out of the heavy attack and get back our resources, so expensive skills like this can be used more. Increases your penetration with Destro staff abilities, including your lights and heavies. Increases your chance of applying status effects, elemental ones. So if you're holding a Destro staff, you have a 100% extra chance to apply status effect. Now, there is a tutorial for this in-game. You're looking for elemental status effects underneath the help menu in tutorials, but area of effect skills, damage over time skills, area of effect, all that kind of stuff, they all have like a 1 to 2% bonus depending on whether they do burst or ticks. But the glyphs you have is 20%. When you've got stuff like this, that heightens the crap out of it, but you have to make sure you're holding a staff. So with all the different lightning damage going off that we've got very good and consistent chance and uptime on supplying off balance to us and the group, and that's the purpose of having all the lightning and stuff. But of course, if you don't hold a Destro, you won't get this bonus, so that is a bit harder to apply. Any area of effect damage we do is increased by 8%. Lots of people misunderstand this. They think they mean if there's more enemies. No. Area of effect skills have a certain amount of damage, much like single target damage ones do. But the difference is area of effect hits more than one. So the skill, if it is counted as an area of effect skill, i.e. Wall of Elements or Boundless Storms or even your Destro Royalty or even your heavy attack from your Destro staff, all of those will be affected by this bonus. Anything that is direct damage, if it's area of effect, will count. Anything that's direct damage, if it's single target, will not. Yes, we do have a balance of single target and area of effect, but we utilize area of effect more because of our lightning staff heavies, which we are going to use a lot. So this gives us a huge upper hand. And also, because we need to heavy attack to get our resources back, you will do more single and area of effect damage combined with the lightning staff channel, which is easier to use as well, than you would a flame staff, which could just crit or not. So it's very, very helpful. You must get these passives. Also, if you kill an enemy with a Destro staff, you get 3600 Magicka back. Simple as that. Now, light armor, we are going to take every single one of these. We're also going to take 2 heavy. We'll get to that in a moment. But these do have pluses and minuses for having lots and lots of different pieces of a particular type. You can go over these in your own time if you like and understand them in more detail, because of course these are going to be things that you'll have to get attuned to. But the ones you want, the ones you have to pay for, get all of these. This will reduce the effectiveness of snares against you, so you'll be faster if you're in trouble. This will also reduce the cost of sprint, so you're quite nimble. Increase mag recovery, reduce cost of skills, increase spell resistance, and increase your crit chance, and increase your spell pen. All of these are per piece, so the more light, the better. We are full light for this particular setup. However, there is a version of this, which I'll go over in a little while, where you will require 2 heavy. So you'll lose some of the passives here. You'll have 5, not 7, for each bonus. And you'll have to gain a couple of these. These also come with their own benefits and negatives, but you're going to want to buy every single one of these. When you do, this will increase your physical and spell resistance. This will increase your health. This will increase your health recovery even. Went over that a little bit too early. And you'll also have more resources back from your heavy attacks per piece, and you'll get heal and receive bonuses as well. There's lots of different perks for this kind of stuff. So it is really, really helpful, but the setup I'm referring to is more about someone that wants to focus more on single target than they do the overall build's design, i.e. AoE. But one setup will be 5 light, 2 heavy. The other setup will be 7 light. We are going to need no Fighters Guild, because we're not using any of this stuff. They need Fighters Guild abilities slotted now. Mage's Guild is obviously important. You are going to want these. Reduce the Magicka and health ability cost of the skills. So if you do have this, which we do, it's cheaper. This increases duration. Again, better off for everybody. For us at least. Increases your max Magicka and mag recovery for 2% for each one of these abilities on your bar. We've got 1 on each bar. Excellent. Now this, of course, will increase the strength of your heavy attacks and your light attacks by 40%. If you have Galloway in your group, you can constantly have this anyway. If you have a Necromancer with Empower and Grasp, you can constantly have this anyway. It's a bit of a filler for free. So you don't have to have it if you don't want to, but if you do activate this, which you will, and then you do a light attack afterwards or a heavy attack, it will be much, much stronger. But I encourage groups to comprise themselves of some form of empowerment buff to give to everyone, because especially this build, you will see a substantial difference. If you've got constant empower from your group with this setup, and you are utilizing your heavy attacks properly at the right time, you can actually go up in DPS by anywhere between 5 to 10k extra on top of what we already have. More about that later. Undaunted is very important, of course. You are going to want these two. Take every single synergy you can see. You get 4% resources back. And if you have different types of armor, you get 2% more resources for all 3 types across the board. We're using all light at the moment, so 2% bonus. If you have the heavy version, so 5 light, 2 heavy, it's another 2% bonus because it's 2 types of armor. We are, of course, a cat. Yes, I know. Now, health recovery, stamina recovery, mag recovery. Brilliant. Max health, max stamina, max magic. Brilliant again. And, of course, crit damage and crit healing. If you critically damage someone, you will do 12% more crit damage than anybody else. You can be a high elf if you want. They were absolutely fine. There was only about 3k in it. But consistency-wise, if you're popping out those crits left, right, and center, cat was a little bit better. Usually from behind, though. If you're not behind the target, there's a little bit of a change to champion points there. And if you're in front of the target, the high elf did a little bit more there. But most situations, unless it's a dragon, you're going to be behind the target anyway. Or you should be. Lastly, most important passive in the game, make sure you get medicinal use. 30% longer potions. If you take potions just because you're low, you're doing it wrong. If your potion is there, take it. It's a consumable buff. Don't let them run out. They have recovery on them. You want the recovery all the time, not just at the end of the fight. Now we're going to get into the gear. Who's panicking? Nobody? Oh, good. So, there's 2 major versions of this build. And you can use crafted stuff. Yes, that'll be on the website. There's 2 major versions. The first version is very consistent with a good amount of single target damage, a really good uptime on-off balance and all that good stuff, and massive area of effect damage as long as you're utilizing your heavy attacks. However, the other version negates a lot of that AoE. You still have some, but it's much, much less, and pushes for more single target. The difference between the two is about 8 or 9k actually, so it's a bit in there. But across the board, all the way through the game, regardless of what content you're in, either one of them is absolutely fine. However, personally, I actually prefer the AoE version when I'm solo because you've got a lot more stamina and you can dodge roll and block and all that stuff a lot more. Anyway, Undaunted Infiltrator is still here. No, we're not using Unweaver because it was crap on this build. Why is it crap when it's got 2 Magicka bonuses instead of 2 stamina bonuses? Well, because you have to use a stamina skill to activate it. The only way to do that is to put Beast Trap on the front, and we don't want to negate any of the bonuses that we have on our front bar. So we'd have to put it on the back. We can't have it on the back because the stuff is on the front. It would mess everything up and overcomplicate everyone or everything, and easy would be removed from the title of this build. It was far too complex, and trying to do that and make it work, it actually ended up being less effective by about 5 or 6k overall. So it was pretty damn bad. Also, let's just bear in mind, of course, we have 2 stand bonuses here, which mean we can dodge roll and block and all that stuff more than most other Magicka builds, and it really does make up the difference when you get into content. The actual 5-piece bonus is exactly the same. So we remove a bit of Magicka, gain a bit of stam, get exactly the same 5-piece bonus. This one did play out much better overall. Throughout every single variation of this build, this one was better than Unweaver. However, up to you if you want to change it. Just appreciate, of course, you will get very different results. So, Precise on the front, Maelstrom Staff on the back. You can have 2 different types here. You can have Infused with a Shock Glyph, Lightning Staff. Or you can have Infused with a Flame Glyph, Flame Staff. Here's the situations. If you have Off Balance already covered, by the way, the dummy already does, then of course you don't need the Lightning Staff. You can go with Fire. If you don't have Off Balance covered, you need to be going with Lightning. The Fire Staff will give you more damage if you have a Dragon Knight in your group. The Lightning Staff will give you more off balance if someone else isn't covering it. Apart from that, when it actually gets right into the thick of it, as far as content is concerned, in actual content, you're not going to see much of a difference at all. Anyway, Precise on the front, Infuse on the back. Undaunted Infiltrator on the front bar weapon along with the jewelry. It's a medium set. We need to retrait the jewelry in order to make it effectively a light set. So spell damage on all 3, 2 Bloodthirsty, 1 Infused. The body is Infallible Ether. This you can get on normal, just like Undaunted Infiltrator. You can get all these sets on normal, absolutely fine. But this will give you 2 crit bonuses plus a 5% increase to damage, plus a spell damage bonus, and the big pop at the end of your heavy attacks on the 5-piece bonus here. That 900 damage will add to that, but because you've got so many different scaling effects, it actually puts out a stupid amount of damage. Yes, of course, it applies minor vulnerability, which we're actually applying anyway because we've got loads of lightning damage, but that's just a free bonus. What we're really looking at there is the heavy attack bonus. So the heavy attack bonus from here, and from Undaunted Infiltrator, and from the Maelstrom weapon. Again, you can get this on normal if you don't want the perfected version. They all increase your light and heavy attacks, and they all stack together, and they all give a massive amount of difference once you've got them all lined up. If you don't use them all together, each one individually is not as effective, not even close. Now, the monster set, you can use 2 different types, well 3 technically. You can use Jeff, which is more of Inferno, summons a Daedra off, he smashes everyone in the face, great, and a max magic bonus, so light on both of those. Or you can go with Xan, which is a tiny bit more single target with a spell crit bonus, but what you have to consider here is Xan is only when you're really in the face of the enemy and has a long cooldown. Jeff can spawn as soon as he's finished, and he will chase the target around the room, and he has a slight bit of AoE as well. So in content, Jeff actually topped out most of the time a little bit better, but of course if it's a very, very static single target fight, which are very rare, then of course Xan's going to give you a couple K more. And if you're in lots and lots of AoE situations and you haven't even unlocked this yet and you just want an easy monster set to get, Grothdar is great all day long. Choice is yours. Now, the single target variation of this setup requires a slight alteration to your gear. Rotation stays the same, champion point stays the same, gear slightly altered. So, you want to change this to Sororia Lightning Staff alongside 3 Sororia body pieces. Then you want to change the legs to Medusa, the chest to Medusa, actually any 2 pieces are fine, and then you want to change the jewelry to Medusa. Now that's a heavy set, so we've got 2 heavy pieces on the body and 3 on the jewelry, but we changed the enchants and the trait to 2 Bloodthirsty, 1 Infuse, just like we did with the Undaunted Infiltrator. So that heavy set is now effectively part of a light set for us. So Sororia and Medusa combined. The reason we've got Sororia on the front bar and Medusa on the body all the time is because when we swap bars, we don't lose the minor force bonus, which is here. You have extra crit damage on both bars plus loads and loads of crit. If you were to put it on the front bar only, when you swap, you lose it, which is inconsistent. Sorcerer, however, does carry over. So once you activate this, you obviously have loads and loads of flat magicka and spell damage, but once you activate this, it gives you loads and loads of spell damage in return. It gives you 5-2-0 if you stack up 10 stacks. If you move out of it too long, you'll lose them, so positioning is key. But if you want the extra spell damage, the extra crit, and the minor force all the time, then of course you can go with that. Bear in mind, again, this is more single target, whereas the original setup, which I'm still hovering over, is the more AoE based one. The choice is yours. If you want to get any of it, you can get it all on normal except for the monster set. So go nuts. One more option, by the way. Raw and Opportunist in place of Sorcerer or in place of Unfallible Ether is actually very, very strong. All you need to do is heavy attack occasionally during off-balance periods, and you will actually give everyone else Major Slayer. Crafted wise, you can check the website for more options on that, but if you don't have any of this whatsoever, maybe you can get Groth Dark as quite an easy vet dungeon. If you don't have any of this whatsoever, you just want to get started, go with 5-piece Mechanical Acuity on the front bar, and then 5-piece Julianus, and fill the rest of the slots as much as you like. Don't waste time farming gear to farm gear. If you can kill stuff already, go get this stuff on normal, you're good to go. Now, champion points. Very simple. Green ones are up to you. There's no right or wrong for this. They're all quality of life. Anything you want is your choice. It doesn't make or break the build. But what I would encourage you to do is follow this path up here, so you don't use soul gems for enchants as often. That did get altered. But these are the 4 that I would take into content. This one here gives you Treasure Hunter. You slot that. Higher quality loot from chests. This one makes you run faster while you're between fights. This one will have a chance to not use a potion at all, even though you actually consumed one. And this one will make your food last longer. Those 4 I would slot there. This here, it doesn't matter how many champion points you've got. What you want to do is aim for the slottables. That's what's important. So all of these light or yellow type passives, these are all inevitable. You will get them eventually, and you can buy every single one of them. But how do you get to the stuff you want? So unlock this first of all. 10 points into here will unlock this tree. Once you've done that, get Backstabber and Fighting Finesse. This is for when you're behind a target, by the way. If you're not behind a target or you've got big AoE pulls, you can of course use a Cult Overlord if you want. Overlord even, if you've got loads of trash stuff. Or you can go for damage over time. So if you're not behind the target, you're against a dragon, dump Backstabber, go for Thaumaturge. Apart from that, most situations, Backstabber and Fighting Finesse. Very easy. 10 points in the crit, buy these 2, slot them. This one here, you are going to want all of these on this side eventually. This side is nice to have to fill it up, but you don't need it because we don't have any martial abilities. So you can just finish this and finish these. But again, this is unlocking stuff. 10 points into here, this bit here, will unlock this end of the scale, and you get Deadly Aim and Master at Arms. Yes, of course, we've got Area of Effect. Yes, of course, we've got damage over time. But overall, this actually worked out to be a lot stronger for what we were doing. But again, if you're not behind the target, you're going to have to swap this out. So we do have lots of Area of Effect damage that does benefit our skills and all the rest of it. But single target, these made more sense. We are using single target stuff. We are using direct as well when it comes to our mines and our light attacks, and single target heavy attacks does also count from single target attack. It's the splash that's AoE. Now that may seem a little complicated, but we'll go over that just briefly again. 10 points into here, grab this and this. 10 points into here, grab this and this. If you're not behind the target, Thaumaturge or Area of Effects for Bite and Aura, either one of the 2 is fine. Red tree's really simple. You want to get some points into here to unlock this, to unlock this. 10 points in here will give you this. Every time you kill something, you'll get 300 Magicka back per stage. So 1.5k per kill. Massive resources. Splash damage the hell out of everything with a lightning star if you're killing everything at once. Huge resources back. In the meantime, these have no prerequisites. Unlock this, and this, and this. So you can get your health, your armor, and your recovery. And that's it. So the 4 slottables in each tree are the most important things you need to know. The rest of it you can unlock in your own time. Doesn't matter how many points you've got. As long as you can get these and start filling them up, that's when you'll start progressing more as a player as far as your flat stats are concerned. The rest are nice, but they're not essential straight away. Now, of course, rotation. Nice and easy. So, make sure your buffs are running. So, your resistance buff and your sorcery. So, your crit surge. And you want to put your mine down or liquid lightning. Light attack, you would normally put a buff on here. So we'll say boundless for argument's sake. Then light attack, wall of elements, swap bars. Now, every time you come to the back bar, you do the same rotation. Rune, light attack, a buff. Light attack, wall, swap. Next time you come around to this bar, rune, light attack, the other buff. Light, wall, swap. Now, front bar is quite simple. Mines on the ground, but a light attack first to make sure your glyph fires. It's heavy, mines. Heavy attack, mines again. Heavy attack. And then you can cast your pet and swap bars. We haven't got the pet out at the moment because I wanted to avoid him hitting the target dummy. We'll make him appear so you can activate him. Once it's done, you swap. Rune, light attack buff, light attack wall, swap bars. Light mines, heavy, mines, heavy. You can change this. You can go with mines, then light attack pet, or skip the last mines and just cast your pet. Whichever way, it's up to you, but make sure you bar swap on that pet cast. When the target's under 53% health, stop casting the pet. Always use the mine at the end anyway. That's it. Every single time you come to this back bar, rune, light attack, boundless, light attack, wall, swap. Next time you come here, rune, light attack, crit surge, light attack, wall, swap. So every rotation, it's boundless one time, crit surge the other, boundless one time, crit surge the other. Both will have 100% uptime. If you mess it up in content, it's not the end of the world. Just make sure they're still running. Always fire your ultimate before your wall of elements because there's a slight delay there and wind up. You can take advantage of it when you get to the front. And if you do, like I said, want to go a little bit more advanced, then you can do this. Light attack mines on your front bar 4 times. Light attack pet swap bars. Back bar stays the same. Then on your front bar, you do the heavy rotation like I taught you a moment ago. Why is it different? Well, because multiple mines being spammed is obviously very high damage, but it costs a lot. So what you want to do is you want to look at this dummy here. And you'll see top left-hand side, the far buff. That blue one, which looks like stars going around somebody's head. When that's active, that's your heavy rotation. When this dude is active, as you can see that obnoxious dude with a blue background, when that's active, you don't want to be heavy attacking. It's not the end of the world if you heavy attack during this phase. You will still get resources back. But if you heavy attack during off balance, which is now this, come on, that one there, that is when you'll get the most out of your heavies. 70% increase to them, 40% extra if you get in power, and of course double resources back. So if it's off balance, you'll get the most out of it damage and resource wise, which means you are then free to do more of this. Again, that's more advanced. If you want to keep it simple, heavy mines, heavy mines, heavy mines, pet swap. Keep it simple if you want to. There is a difference in DPS, but practice makes perfect. Now, if you want to see what sort of numbers you can expect, it depends on the overall version of the build you've chosen on single target. Just bear in mind, of course, these are rigged to hell. They have specific buffs and bonuses on them, not all of them. It's a very rigged situation. But on that dummy, you're looking at this for area of effect build, which is actually pretty good. And you look at this for the more single target based build, which is very high for something as easy as this to use. It is going to take a little bit of practice to line everything up though. Now, time for fashion. Now, the armor is the same as before. We're actually using Assassin's League Heavy Helmet, Apostle Light Chest with Apostle Light Shoulders. We're using medium Dramathra hands, belt, and feet, and we're using heavy Apostle Greaves. So he looks a bit robotic, a little bit lightning-y with all these little chargy, zappy things on his arms. He looks cool. Ebon Shadow Staff, because the best in the freaking game, of course, and we've also got the Abnathan Staff. Why Abnathan uses cat stuff, I don't know. Something to do with elsewhere, I'm sure. Someone will be able to tell me that in the comment section. Now, the colours we're using is pretty much Void Pitch and Black Reach Blue. We don't have a huge amount of blue on there, just to fill the gaps to make it look like it's the Dramathra colours. And of course, if you don't have that black, you can unlock Legate's Black or Thalmor Black or anything like that. Anything that will be kind of dark. And that's about it. So, thank you very much for watching. I hugely appreciate support. If you are not subscribing on YouTube already or hitting that notification bell, please make sure you do that. That is free. But if you want to help support outside the channel, there are some links in the info section for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, the website XynodeGaming.com, where the written guides are, including this one. You can also find me on Instagram, and I live stream every night from 10 PM UK time, except for Wednesdays on Twitch. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.